Hi guys, welcome back to another video. In this video we have the winner of our voting system. One of these lucky guys is going to get fixed, hopefully. And unfortunately it's not the Class 90, I'm afraid. And I won't keep the suspense going either, it's not the Class 25. So we still don't know what's wrong with those just yet. It is the Dapol Class122, and it's in blue-grey livery wise, and that right there is what is on the box, if you wanted to know. They did a few of these in different liveries, so from what I understand, I think a few people are having issues with these locos, hence the vote. Okay then, so cosmetically it looks in pretty good shape. I'm looking down at all the windows, nothing looks too messed up. In fact, it's in pretty good nick. So I'm intrigued to know what it is that is wrong with this. There is one issue though, cosmetically, and that's the exhaust pipe there on the front of the loco. Luckily though, when I took it out of the box for the video, I found that in there. So I think it's just going to be a case of gluing this back on, and we'll call it sort of quits really. But that's not not it fixed. I don't think it runs. If it does, great, happy days. So there's a high possibility, because it's Dapol, my guess would be maybe there's something wrong in there with lights, maybe. But we'll take this over to the test track now and we'll see what we've got, shall we? See if it's got any life in it. Okay, so here we are at the test track. I've just got a piece of flexi track to try this out, and I'm running a Graham Farish DC controller. Quite simple. The idea here is I am going to select one way and briefly add power. If nothing happens, I'll turn it down quick. So nothing. I'll go the other way. Nothing. Now the reason I'm being quick, and you should be as well, because you never really know what's wrong with the loco. I can't smell this, but my missus came in and she just said it absolutely stinks in here, and I've said, oh, is it this? The loco's got an electronic smell to it. Because this one smells though, it's probably something burnt, but cosmetically looking on the outside, and I'll show you underneath here as well, it looks in really good shape, and the wheels look very nice and clean. The gears look in good shape too. So I think what I'm going to do is, the first thing is take the shell, take the roof off, because that's the easiest way of getting into this loco. This is how you change the blanking chip for a decoder or vice versa. You have got to be careful of this end with the exhausts, and that's probably why one is snapped. This loco isn't too bad because you can actually lift up from this end where there are no exhausts. So I just use my fingernail because I have some. You could use cocktail sticks. Well, that came off easily. Whew. And now I can smell that. I'm going to place this away off the screen to one side in this orientation, so I know this is that end. You could actually put a little pen mark in here if you wanted to, just to help you put it back together in a minute. So that's that. I'm not seeing anything obvious in there yet. So what I'm going to do next, and we've got a blank chip, so we know there's no decoder issue because it hasn't got one. Yeah, that does pong a bit. Remove this blanking chip. It's quite awkward. I can't get my hands in there, so I'm opting for tweezers. And I will agree, this is a bit awkward to remove. Look at this. To me, straight off the bat, because I've opened a lot of locos, I know that insulation tape should look more like this than bubbly. It got hot. So in my case, I'm actually going to take this off and just see. I think our problem's going to be just on the other side of that chipboard, you know. Take these screws out, and that will allow this PCB to come up So I'll just get on with this. Give it a little wiggle. I can see what I think's something burnt out. Oh wow, yeah, okay. That's pretty bad. That is our problem right there. At some point when this was running, all these wires, one of them shorted out, got really hot, the heat's come through to this side of the board, melting that insulation tape and making it bubble. But this lot here is all gummed up together. Blimey, okay. What I'm going to do is take this apart so you can see how I do it, because we don't know what condition those wires are like down here. It might have been a bit of janky soldering and it's shorted out and it's caused the whole lot to then just sort of nuke itself. So, removing the bogies, this is where we're going to start now. Either side on the body, and they pull out just like that. You want to be careful of these pickups so that they don't bend. You want them, they need to look like this, maybe a bit cleaner. Put that to one side. So that's our, let's call it the front bogie, the one with the PCB. So I've put that off screen next to my roof, and then the same with the bottom, up and out. These are coming out quite easily. Sometimes they're a bit of a sod. See that pickup there? That's springing out too much, but well, the easy fix there is being artistic with it. So it looks like that, okay? Okay, we've got our wheels off. Now what we're going to do is take the seating out. So that's one screw. That's number 2. Okay guys, so we've got the screws out. Now the next thing might trigger some people. What you want, see this little piece, grab it, hold the body and wiggle, right? Sort of pushing the middles out on the sides, and it comes out. Right, so if you do it any other way, you'll be there for days trying to put, you know, cocktail sticks in and whatnot. And I didn't realise this is actually metal. It's a good way of getting weight in the loco. That's metal. Cool. Put that to one side. I'm going to turn everything around so that when I take it off the table, same orientation as we need. Now then, look in there. All our wiring. That looks good. That actually does look good. Put a finger in there and squash the sides against your finger. And also look at that, it just opens up. So we've got that end started, and we'll try the other end. Yeah, wait, there we go. Okay, so you've seen that. Be very careful when you're doing this, because there's a lot of small details, like these exhausts, for example. We see how someone's decided to super glue the bit onto the chassis, and these guys are really fragile. The lens is there for our LEDs. Now I'm going to, they should stay with the chassis, the lights should. I'm going to lift this up, PCB's out. Right, so our body's there, front is here, so our exhausts are on the right hand side. So I'll put that over with our other bits, and that is the chassis. And for good measure, so I don't screw it up when I put it back together, if it's going to come off okay, I might just take this off, because I don't want to break this. Okay, so that's off. And I can clean up the super glue later, and I'll put it on properly. I'll cut the wires and resolder them on, and I'll do the same with this. However, I can tell you for sure that this guy is absolutely burnt to a crisp. Now that's important because that controls our LEDs. When you go forwards, certain LEDs light up. When you go backwards, other LEDs light up. That's just a IC chip with, I think, 2 diodes in it. Okay guys, I wanted to show you the actual board close up and personal. Got my old macro lens on. Now, we have a bit of an issue. The diode PCB, IC chip so to speak, that we need to fit to this loco, and I'll try and get the cocktail stick in view, sits here. Now there should be a pin, a pad, solder pad about here. There's one there and there's one there. The one we're missing is off of this track here, which is just about holding on for dear life to the PCB board. Okay, which is a positive, I believe. It's one side of the rail that needs to be. Now, if you can see, let's get back on there. You can see this track goes down to what looks like a hole there. Now, what you can do is wire. I'm going to wire a wire from this part of the IC chip to this part of the track, because it's still there present on the PCB. But if you didn't have that option, you see where this goes through the PC, that means it goes through the PCB. Okay, so I'll show you the other side. So on the other side, that same track goes to this point here, that little hole there. So you could solder to that. Problem is the blanking chip's in the way. You can do it though. Also though, what you could do is, if you follow the track up, there's another hole there, so it goes back onto the other side of the board, which means you can put a wire. This is so hard to show you, by the way. You can wire from this little guy here, so you could solder there and put a wire to that point there where the new PCB IC chip's going. I won't do that, but that's how you could do it. You can go from that one there and go to here. Okay. I was going to feed a wire around, but it turns out that track, the solder just gets it, so that's how I'm putting it on. The solder could be less, but I don't want to keep putting heat into that chip because it will just break it again. So next up, things like these wires here, I'm going to take one off, clean it all up, put it back down, take it off, put it back down, because I think you can see the strands of wires here. I don't like that, that's not cool. So I'll take one off, pull it all the way back, make sure it's okay up to the loco. If it's okay, then I'll stick it back on. That's the soldering somewhat done, and hopefully we are going to have some lights. Now, what I'm going to do is just put our wheels back on for the time being and just check our pickups are still where we want them. Actually, whilst I've got the bogies off, I'll just move them just to make sure they are actually running free, which they are. So that's the first one in, and that one feels free too. Bend that one up a bit. Now what I'm going to do is put the blanking chip in this board, 1 to 1, 6 to 6, the numbers there. Now there's no reason this shouldn't actually run on the track, so we're going to go take this to the test track. It's important to do this now because obviously if it's still broken, there's no point putting it back together unless you're going to sell it as bits. Okay, so apologies, it's a bit dark, but I wanted to show you. It does work. We've got red lights there, white lights and white lights and red lights, and they're all working in the correct direction, and they're all working, which is amazing. So I haven't got to change any LEDs in there, which you can also do, by the way. So if it's broken, you can sometimes fix it. The only thing that is awkward to fix are when these lenses are snapped. You kind of up a creek with no paddle there. So we'll go back to the bench. I'm happy with how this is working. To get this thing back together, it's the reverse of how I took it apart. I'm putting the clip back on there that I took off. Now we'll put it back in the orientation it was, so the exhausts were this end. Now we do want to be careful with the lights, okay? So this will go in first. I'm feeding the PCB through. And I do think this is going to be this will be the most awkward part you'll have, is getting these lights ready when it clips down. You've really got to be careful with those lenses in the holes. So that one's kind of primed, and then we'll go to this end here. It is all very fiddly work, but you just take your time. You could even, I wouldn't say super glue these in, but you could probably put a bit of blue tack just to help hold them whilst you try and put them back in. So again, I'm going to put my finger in the middle and sort of squish the sides. And I'm just trying to get that end in. I think that's right where it needs to be. It looks pretty healthy down there. We'll come back to that in a minute. I've got to get this end in as well. Similar thing, finger inside and then squash your finger. So basically the reason you do that is so that if you slip or if you push too hard, you won't actually go past the point of breaking the shell. You're squishing your finger. Okay, so once you're happy your seats are in, and this would be a good point if you wanted to add your passengers. I wouldn't stick your passengers in this whilst the seats are out, because you can't really judge the height. And to be honest, if you just remove the roof, that will allow you to gain access here for your people placing. So that's the screws all in. Okay, and don't forget you've got 2 screws to put in there. I've just put them in, and this PCB can go back down. I really think that the problem was actually just bad wiring. Having a look at some of the wires I took out, they were overly long and they were shorting. I don't know is the honest answer. I think maybe they were shorting with each other on the PCB, or maybe that little IC chip got a little bit too hot and there were wires next to it and that caused it to pop. What I will do, actually, I should have done this. You should really remove the blanking plug when you're putting them screws back in. It makes your life a lot easier. What I have done, and I'll show you this, is on the blanking chip I've done this. I've sort of Z-bent the pins, and I don't think they were having great connection in the socket. It seems to be a common issue that I've come across with this type of PCB. So I'm going to get some tape and we'll just put some tape on there. Okay, so the tape I'm using is called Kapton tape, and we're going to put it here, start at the socket end. Okay, should probably use a cocktail stick. Just push that down. It's not super sticky, but it's quite a thick medium tape, so it's clear obviously, but it's better than insulation tape. Insulation tape goes all sticky after a while, makes things all gooey, yucky. Yeah. So put that back in there, and you'll just see it. 1, 1. That's a 6, 6. If you wanted to, you could put Kapton tape underneath the PCB. I think the problem's now eliminated and we won't have that issue anymore, because there was something shorted out underneath the PCB and it went nope and fried all them wires. Right then, so really we've got our exhaust end there. So you're putting the roof back on. The roof has these tags and they have little round sort of clip-on holes, and if you look carefully in here you'll see there's one there's one here, and it works its way along both sides. Now that's what those tags click into, so I'm going to sort of just push on the exhaust here. I'm not pushing it down just yet. I'm hovering it. It's hovering. Once I'm happy with how it is, I'll just go like that, just like that. Well, that's it, guys. Other than the exhaust, so I'm going to play with that. Okay, enough dabbling around. I've fixed it for you guys. I feel like you purposely picked the awkward one. However, pretty much anything can be fixed if you have the inclination to. If you want to learn anything and there's something you're really stuck on, just let me know. I'll try and help. I only know how to take these apart because I've taken one apart before, and I'm just sort of careful with how I do it, so I know the bits and bobs on these now, and hopefully it's helped you as well. So with enough of me blabbing, let's have a look at some running, shall we? Okay guys, thank you very much for watching this video. Hopefully it's helped you in some way, shape or form, or even just being entertainment. Anyway, this leads me on to the next video. Okay, so I think we've started a trend now. The second, or the runner-up last time, was the Class 90, okay. If you would like to see this in the next video, drop me Class 90, say that in the comments. I've got two other contenders for you though. I've still got to fix that Class 25, but we have a pannier by Dapol. I don't know what's wrong with any of these, by the way, so it is pure luck. But I know I'm familiar with those two. The next one, you're cool here, guys. So we've got a Dapol, a grain farish, and we have another Dapol. Okay, this one is a Class 142. Bit dusty. There's something up with it. There seems to be a lot of hair underneath it. I honest to God, I haven't tried any of these. I don't know what is up with them. So we'll learn together, I think, and I'll just show you how and why and what we get. So in the comments, just put, I don't know, pannier, something like that, steam train, Class 90 or 142. One vote each, guys, and we'll see what we get in the next video. Thanks for watching.